What is happening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mazda Protege5 build. Today we're going to be replacing our factory exhaust manifold and cat with a new long tube header from DNA. Now this thing is pretty cool. I'll get in kind of the details of it a little bit later, but came with standard gasket set, and then also I did pick up this oxygen sensor tool. That's one of my favorite ones to use, so highly recommend grabbing one of those. We also have some other stuff on the table here, which I'm going to go over a little bit later in the video, but I mean, this is all stuff that makes the job a lot easier, so I definitely recommend scooping it up if you can. And then a few extra parts to replace just due to age. Nothing really wrong with them, but why don't we get started on this install. So I had the engine nice and toasty, and I was able to come in here and break free the heat shield bolts and also the manifold bolts. Turns out I was actually missing two of the harder ones to reach, but I'll have to find a replacement for those regardless, because we don't want any exhaust leaks. Now, the secret to getting these bolts off really is heat. Honestly, like, it was so simple. Everything was nice and warm. I didn't have to use any penetrant or anything. So why don't we go ahead and get this up in the air and get started. And underneath here you can see that we do have a couple things we have to get taken off here. We got a bracket. It's going to hold our cat to our block, which in turn is going to hold our manifold to our block. There's another one down here on the transmission, which you can see is a little bit wet. I was kind of hoping that it was just residual from when we did the valve cover and the cam seals, but turns out we do have a little bit of a leak there. Now, some of this hardware might be a little bit difficult to get off. Like I said, our engine's nice and toasty, so hopefully we'll be able to do it with no penetrant. But worst case scenario, there's always the grinder. But other than that, everything else under here looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and get this hardware off. Alright, and just like that, all the hardware is removed. Also got the brackets off and the O2 sensors. So now that everything is freed up, the heat definitely helped out with that. I have a couple things to do underneath here. We're going to be doing a transmission service, so a simple drain and fill. Alright guys, so on the transmission service side of things, you're going to want to go ahead and look for your fill plug, which is going to be just up and to the right of your reverse sensor here. And it's going to look a little something like this with a crush washer on it. I was able to put a 21 on there, and then your drain plug is going to be just right down here. And that's also going to be a 21 with a crush washer on it. Now, if you don't have a replacement crush washer, don't freak out. If yours looks like it's in good condition, you can always just take it off, clean both sides, clean the side of the nut, and put it back in. And then earlier when we were under here taking the bolts out for the header we're about to replace, I did notice some wetness right about here. Now, it's not a big deal. We are going to be doing a new clutch kit in this thing with a flywheel, but it looks to me like we either have a rear main leak or a transmission input shaft seal leak. So we're going to replace both of those seals when we go ahead and get that clutch done anyway. So not a big deal for now. We're going to go ahead and fill this up with some Redline MT90. So you're going to want to put your drain plug back in, get it nice and torqued, or just tight, one ugga-dugga, but I think it's something like 36 foot-pounds for the drain plug. And then always, like I said, make sure you are able to remove your fill plug, because if you get your drain plug out and you can't get your fill plug out, you're going to have a bad time. You could try to fill it up from here, but this is much lower, so you're going to have less. So your only other option would be to go through one of the vents up at the top. But I'm going to go ahead and get this drain plug put back in, and I'm going to get this thing filled up, and then we're going to go ahead and drop this factory exhaust manifold out with our cat and get ready to wrap our headers that are sitting right over there. So I didn't show it, but when I went to go fill my transmission fluid, you can see right there, that's our fill plug. I did take off my intake that runs this way, and I just kind of put my funnel down there, put the upper portion of the funnel here, just filled it right up. 3 quarts. I'd used that Redline MT90 in there. And then after I was done with that, I went ahead and pulled this off. Now the secret really is to do this hot. So run your vehicle when it's hot, get in here, get the heat shield off, break all the bolts loose, and then you can let them cool down. I'm telling you, this has been the easiest header I've ever had to remove.
easiest exhaust manifold so far. So now that we actually have this stuff off of here, you can see it's all one piece now, but I did have to take off this portion here, so I had to separate the upper portion of the manifold from the cat and the downpipe section in order to get it out of here. Now you could go ahead and remove this fan, but I wasn't going to take the fan off. I just went ahead and went the easy route. So I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to wrap these headers. So this header right here is from DNA. SSR sold it, so it is a DNA old stock header. This is circa 2008, so this is an old header. We're going to go ahead and get this wrapped up. I've got some lava titanium wrap here. I got two 50-foot rolls of 1 inch, I believe, or maybe this is 2 inch. And then I did go ahead and pick up a tool to help us with our steel zip ties, basically. That's going to ensure we have a nice tight wrap. And then I have 2 new O2 sensors right here, got ready to go for this. Now this does include the bung for the EGR, and then they were even gracious enough to send us some new hardware and both of our gaskets, so I thought that was really nice. And then if we do have time today, I am going to go ahead and replace my idle air control valve, not for any reason in particular other than the fact that this thing is 23 years old, and that idle air control valve sits right back there. So not too hard to get to. As you can see, I did replace some hoses back here, some vacuum lines, just with ones that were falling off pretty easily or having some issues. So we're gonna let this sit. I do need to go see if I can find 2 bolts, since we were missing the 2 on the end here, which is crazy. Those are actually the 2 hardest ones to get. So I might try to put a stud in those, and then this way we can just drop a nut on it. But let's get these header wrapped, and once it's all wrapped up, I will show you guys what it looks like. Alrighty, so with the headers wrapped, you can see here, got them all wrapped up. I do have it all bolted up underneath, and then I was able to replace the 2 bolts I was missing right there. So we got it all torqued down. It's about 37 foot-pounds across. If you're using one of these gaskets, which I don't recommend, that are crush style, I recommend just getting a metal gasket like this. I was going to use mine, but it is broken on one side, so it won't seal. So I use this temporarily, but later we'll come through and get it replaced. So the only thing I don't like about these headers from DNA is that right here, this port is not lined up with this. I can't move this forward for the EGR. I can't do anything. So I ended up just capping it off. I welded it closed, and that was basically my fix for that. So now that that's all done, I'm gonna go ahead and upgrade our grounds. So I'm gonna upgrade the ground terminal that lands right over here. And we're going to put another terminal on just like this, just to kind of keep things nice and cleaned up. I'm also going to go ahead and clean up our ground just right over there. So that's about it with this. I will get you guys a clip of what it sounds like. I'll fire it up.
Alright guys, and with that, another install comes to an end on the Mazda Protege5. I got some cleanup to do in here with the O2 sensor wiring. It's not a big deal. My only gripe, like I said, is that the EGR tube didn't line up, but other than that, I think everything came out great. Now the engine bay is really starting to look tidy, and we do have a fair amount of parts on the way for this thing. You know, we do daily drive it, so we're trying to keep it pretty basic for now. But I did also go ahead and upgrade our ground terminal. So we did also clean up our grounds and then add a new larger cable there on that side. So I think that this is turning out great. I really hope you guys are enjoying the build so far. And until the next one, peace.